I thank the opposition leader and I call the member for Riverina, Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Speaker. And all we heard in that last 10-minute rant was Tony Abbott, Tony Abbott, Tony Abbott. He covets Tony Abbott's job. He'll never get it, but mind you, he's got the member for Sydney coveting his job. The member for Grayndler should have it. The people wanted the member for Grayndler as the opposition leader, but no. The caucus wanted the member for Maribyrnong. We know the people wanted the member for Grayndler. The people wanted the member for Grayndler, and but I do say I agree with the member for Maribyrnong. I agree with the member for Maribyrnong when he said that the budget is of the people, by the people, for the people. He's right, of course. He's absolutely, totally right. But if he believes that, if he, in his heart of hearts, believes that the budget is of the people, by the people, for the people, why did Labor produce so many bad budgets? Why did Labor produce deficit after deficit after deficit after deficit?
Still a couple more.
After deficit after deficit. And they would have kept going. They would have kept going, but the people spoke. The people spoke. Now, listening to the opposition leader, it's a bit like that annoying voice on a vehicle's global positioning system. We've all got them, the GPS system, and which has outdated maps. Let's just say that the GPS is activated even though the driver knows the way. You know, you've got the GPS, it's activated, and the driver knows the way. And the maps are let's just say, pick a date, 7 September 2013? So we've got outdated maps, the GPS is on, and it's saying, turn back, turn back. The driver knows they're going the right way, as in fact the coalition is the driver here in this instance here. The driver knows where they're going, but the GPS is going, bear left, bear left. And that's what Bill Shorten's like. That's what the member for Maribyrnong's like. Let's do a U-turn. Let's do a U-turn. You know, and he wants he denies the fact that the election result. He denies the 7th of September 2013 election result. He's still on those outdated maps. He's still saying, do a U-turn, bear left, you know, going the wrong way, when the people of Australia know that we are going the right way. The people of Australia know that we're getting Australia back on the map. Australia back in the right position. The drive you know, and I refer, and if anybody's got any doubt about Labor wanting to do U-turns, wanting to reintroduce carbon taxes, wanting to reintroduce mining taxes, wanting to take us back to the debt and deficit legacy that it so loves, let's read from the budget speech produced by none other than the member for Lily, where he says that, and he starts off, the 4 years of surpluses I announced tonight, and on and on and on. I mean, the 4 years. I mean, who was he trying to kid? He was like that outdated GPS annoying voice. You know, turn back, bear left. We know that the coalition is getting Australia back on track. We know we're heading in the right direction. More importantly, Australia knows that we're heading in the right direction. They know that they are in for a bit of a tough haul. That's unfortunate because of the debt and deficit legacy left by the mob opposite. A debt to GDP ratio of 122% if left unchecked. If left unchecked. Now, when the coalition came to government, our net debt was on track to reach $5.6 trillion by 2054 in today's dollars, which would be equivalent to one of the highest in the developed world. Under the current legislated arrangements, our net debt has been halved to 60% of GDP. That's because of good work by the Treasurer, good work by his new Assistant Treasurer, good work by the Minister for Finance, Senator Cormann, in the other place. If all of the measures in the last budget were implemented, our net debt would continue to decline and we would start building budget surpluses again. We're not getting any help. Not getting any help from those opposite. They continue to block. They continue to block their own savings measures. It's like that GPS voice again. Traffic jam ahead, and there is a traffic jam ahead. It's called Labor in the Senate. It's Labor in the Senate. Come on board with us. Get in the back seat and help us to steer this vehicle in the right direction. Stop telling us to bear left. Stop telling us to make a U-turn. We know where we're going. We know what we have to do. Please help us. Stop trying to correct the vehicle. Stop trying to make us go in the wrong direction. This coalition government was elected on a policy platform of which we committed our #1 priority was to get Australia's budget and spending back in control, back under control. Incremental savings over time only make a difference. Only by achieving these savings and a concerted effort to repair the budget can government afford the sorts of things that Australians want it to do. We've made considerable progress in our first budget. The release of the intergenerational report confirms this. The reform measures already implemented have already cut in half Labor's projected debt and deficit. That's a great start. We're facing up to some of our structural economic and fiscal challenges, including an ageing population, our exposure to falling terms of trade and the current unsustainable rate of government spending. But those opposite, they're not telling us what they would do if they had the Treasury benches. They're not telling us. They've got no plan for the future. The member for Maribyrnong, all he can stand up and talk about is Tony Abbott. He's obsessed with Tony Abbott. He's absolutely obsessed with Tony Abbott. We are importantly pressing on with the task of repealing red tape. It was started under the member for Kooyong. It continues under the new parliamentary secretary for the Prime Minister, that's repealing red tape, getting rid of bureaucracy. We're creating export opportunities for Australian businesses and we're investing in infrastructure. $50 billion, the biggest infrastructure spend in Australia's history. Labor left a legacy of debt and deficit. 6 years in governing, that's all they're good for. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I hear the member for Jagga. That's all they're good for. Thank you. Thank you for agreeing with me. Labor had 6 years in governing the country, which demonstrated its inability to make the tough decisions, to make the tough calls. What they did demonstrate is their ability to spend and spend and spend after inheriting a strong budget surplus. No government ever came in as the Rudd government did in 2007, with a better balance sheet, with a better set of books, with a better set of economic figures. No government. What did you do? Just wasted it. Wasted the golden opportunity that Australia had, the government had, to put our country in such a great position. Under the policy settings that we inherited from Labor, Australia was headed for continuous deficits year after year for 40 long, sorry years. The coalition was elected. The coalition was elected to make tough decisions. We're doing it. We're spending all sorts of infrastructure funding. We're making all sorts of infrastructure funding. $500 million to fix black spots on roads. $300 million to construct the Melbourne to Brisbane inland rail. Today, a ministerial statement to cap water buyback at 1,500 gigalitres. The member for Watson opposite, he didn't want to do that. He had charge of water, and we had a situation where farmers were just desperate for good water policy, and he just ignored them. I'll admit he came to Griffith. And we had thousands of people turning out worried about their futures. That was emblematic of what was happening all over Australia. This was just one portion of policy failure by Labor, but it was just an example, a microcosm of what was happening nationwide. But the member for Watson saw it. He saw it in those desperate farmers, business people's eyes. They wanted help. They got nothing from those opposite, nothing. In the dying days of the New South Wales election campaign, true to its form, Labor is resorting to desperate last-ditch attempts to confuse people about the Pacific Highway. Together, the federal government and the New South Wales state governments will complete the duplication of the Pacific Highway before the decade's end, and that is going to produce a much safer road, not just for New South Wales motorists, but for people all over Australia. The New South Wales coalition government today has established an unprecedented partnership with New South Wales farmers, and I'm sure that the member for Watson would appreciate that, through the steady and able leadership of Deputy Premier and Leader of the Nationals, Troy Grant. And I raise that because we've heard all about how they're very concerned about the state election, and as we all should be, because it's an important watershed moment in the history of New South Wales, and people should get on board in New South Wales and back the Baird Grant government, because they are rolling out infrastructure. They are doing all the sorts of things for hospitals, through the minister, and as well as the education through Minister Pickley, who's the member for Murrumbidgee, running in the seat of Murray, the newly formed seat of Murray, down in the Riverina Way. Agriculture is front and centre in government policy at a state and federal level, with the centrepiece being the commitment to scrap the Native Vegetation Act. This will certainly be popular amongst New South Wales farmers and landholders. It's monumental infrastructure investment which is creating jobs, hope, reward and opportunity in New South Wales, just from the Baird government, just like we're doing nationally. We're getting on with the job of fixing the debt and deficit, the mess created by those opposite. It would be chaotic. It would be absolutely chaotic if they were ever to get the Treasury benches in this place again, and we're certainly getting on with the job, and I absolutely reject the notion of this matter of public importance.